The last words my wife ever said to me before she walked out the front door were, "You'll die alone, and no one will even notice." I stood in the hallway, listening to the silence she left behind. I didn't chase her. I didn't argue. After 42 years of marriage, I had run out of words. What she didn't know was that I had already made one final decision, one that would change not only my life, but hers as well. If you've ever given everything to the people you love and wondered whether it was enough, you'll understand why I still remember that day so clearly. The names, places, and events in this story are fictional, and the visuals shown are only illustrations to help tell the story. My name is William Foster. I'm 70 years old, and I spent most of my life working as a firefighter in Colorado. My wife, Patricia, and I built a modest life together. We weren't rich, but we had a comfortable home, raised 2 children, and shared dreams that once felt unbreakable. Somewhere along the way, things changed. After I retired, Patricia became distant. She started spending more time with new friends from investment club and less time at home. She criticized everything about me, the way I dressed, the old pickup truck I still drove, even the stories I told our grandchildren. "You stopped growing," she would say. "I've just slowed down," I would answer with a smile. But my smile never seemed to matter. One evening, she invited several friends to our house for dinner. Throughout the night, she laughed at my retirement hobbies and joked that I was living in the past. Everyone laughed politely. I didn't. After the guests left, I quietly asked, "Why do you keep embarrassing me?" She looked at me without emotion. "Because you're not the man you used to be." Those words stayed with me for weeks. Then, one rainy afternoon, she packed 2 suitcases and placed them by the front door. "I'm leaving," she said. "For how long?" "For good." She paused before opening the door. "You'll die alone." Then she walked away without looking back. I sat alone in the empty house until the sun went down. The next morning, instead of calling her, I drove to my attorney's office. For months, I had been putting off a decision that I knew I could no longer avoid. As I signed the final document, my attorney looked at me and quietly asked, "Mr. Foster, are you absolutely certain this is what you want?" I looked across the desk at my attorney, Daniel Harris, and took a deep breath. "Yes," I said. "I've never been more certain." He slid the documents into a folder. "Then everything you've requested will take effect immediately." I nodded, but my heart still felt heavy. This wasn't about revenge. It was about finally finding peace. For 42 years, I had put my family before myself. I worked nights, missed holidays, and walked into burning buildings so they could have a better life. I never regretted it. What hurt wasn't that Patricia had left. It was how easily she erased everything we had shared. A week later, I received divorce papers. There wasn't a single handwritten note, just signatures. Our children, Michael and Sarah, called me after hearing the news. "Dad, are you okay?" Sarah asked. "I will be. Mom says you refuse to change." I smiled sadly. Sometimes people confuse getting older with giving up. Neither of them knew what had really happened inside our marriage. I refused to turn them against their mother. Instead, I wished Patricia well and quietly moved into a small cabin overlooking a mountain lake. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. I spent my mornings fishing, volunteering with the local fire department, and helping young recruits learn the lessons that had taken me a lifetime to understand. Then, 3 months later, my phone rang. It was Michael. "Dad, Mom needs to see you." "Why?" He hesitated. Her business partner disappeared. What does that have to do with me? Everything. The investment company Patricia had trusted had collapsed overnight. Millions of dollars belonging to dozens of retirees had vanished, including nearly every dollar she had received in the divorce settlement. I closed my eyes, not because I felt satisfaction, because I felt sadness. She had traded a lifetime of loyalty for promises that were never real. Then Michael quietly added, "Dad, there's something Mom just found out." "What?" The man she trusted most had been lying to her from the very beginning. Michael drove me to Patricia's apartment the following afternoon. When she opened the door, I barely recognized her. The confident woman who had walked away from our marriage was gone. She looked exhausted, frightened, and years older than when I'd last seen her. She lowered her eyes. "Thank you for coming." I stepped inside without saying a word. The apartment was almost empty. Expensive furniture had already been sold to cover part of her debts. She sat across from me and quietly admitted the truth. The investment company was a fraud. I listened. The man I trusted convinced me to invest everything. He promised guaranteed returns, showed fake account statements, and even introduced me to people I thought were successful clients. She paused, fighting back tears. It was all staged. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply heartbroken that someone had taken advantage of her trust. "I should have listened to you," she whispered. "For months, you warned me not to put everything into one investment." I nodded gently. "I wasn't trying to control you. I was trying to protect you." She covered her face with her hands. "I thought you were holding me back." Just then, there was another knock at the door. Two federal investigators introduced themselves. One of them asked Patricia several questions about the investment company. Before leaving, he turned to me. "Mr. Foster, your wife mentioned you declined to invest." "That's right." He nodded. "That decision probably saved your retirement." After they left, Patricia looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I threw away our marriage because I believed someone who only wanted my money." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she asked the question I had been expecting. "Is there any chance you'll ever forgive me?" I took a deep breath. "I've already forgiven you." She looked surprised. "But forgiveness doesn't always mean life goes back to the way it was." She quietly nodded. For the first time, she understood that losing money wasn't the greatest loss she had suffered. She had lost the trust of the one person who had spent 42 years standing beside her. The months that followed were difficult for both of us. Federal investigators eventually uncovered the full fraud scheme. The investment company had been operating a nationwide scam, targeting retirees with promises of guaranteed wealth. The owner and several partners were arrested, and while some victims recovered part of their savings, most of the money was gone forever. Patricia wasn't charged with any crime. She had been one of the victims. She sold the last of her expensive possessions and moved into a small apartment across town. For the first time in decades, she had to rebuild her life from the beginning. One afternoon, she asked if we could meet at the old park where we used to bring our children. We sat on the same wooden bench where we had celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and family picnics years earlier. "I've replayed that day in my mind 1,000 times," she said softly. "The day I told you that you'd die alone." I looked at the lake in front of us. I remember. Tears filled her eyes. "It was the cruelest thing I've ever said." I nodded. It hurt. She reached into her purse and handed me my old wedding ring. I kept it because I thought I would never regret leaving. She smiled sadly. I was wrong. I closed my hand around the ring. "I don't hate you, Patricia." She looked at me hopefully. "But we've both become different people." She understood before I finished speaking. There would be no wedding, no moving back in together, and no pretending the past had never happened. But there could still be peace. Over time, we became friends again. We attended our grandchildren's school plays together, shared holiday dinners with our children, and slowly replaced painful memories with kinder ones. Looking back, I realized that my final decision had never